Hei sann, velkommen tilbake til vår levende fantasi. I dag vil jeg snakke om noe som er veldig underlig, så rart, og jeg skjønner ikke hvordan dette er mulig. Samtidig er det veldig trist, melankolsk, og man føler seg så maktesløs. Jeg vil snakke om Mandela-effekten. Dette er et fenomen der din hukommelse avviker fra realiteten. Faktisk så viser dokumentasjonen noe helt annet enn din påstand. Det interessante oppstår når man kollektivt husker det samme, men likevel viser dokumentasjonen noe annet. La meg starte med det mest klassiske eksempelet fra Star Wars. Hva er fortsettelsen her?
If you only knew the power of the dark side. Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
He told me enough. He told me you killed him.
Luke, I am your father. Eller er det ikke det?
No, I am your father.
That's not true. That's impossible.
Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
Hvis det aldri har vært Luke, I am your father, hvorfor sier vi det? Og hvorfor trykker vi opp t-skjorte med dette sitatet? Det er også veldig lett å skylde på oss selv og si, ja, da husker jeg bare feil da. Men at flere millioner mennesker skulle glemme samme sitat, det er ikke logisk. Forrest Gump er en film jeg likte godt som tenåring. Og jeg husker veldig godt dette sitatet. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Men ser du Forrest Gump i dag, så hører du dette.
Do you want a chocolate? I could eat about 1.5 million of these. My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates.
Life was like a box of chocolates.
You never know what you're gonna get.
Og for de som så den engelske versjonen av Snøhvit, så husket du sikkert sitatet Mirror, mirror on the wall. Men i dag så hører du
Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?
Alle tilfeller av Mandela-effekten viser seg å endre på bare ett enkelt ord. No i stedet for Luke, was i stedet for is, magic i stedet for mirror, Looney Tunes i stedet for Looney Tunes, interview with the vampire i stedet for interview with a vampire, Sex and the City i stedet for Sex in the City. I tillegg så føles det så grammatisk feil. Life was like a box of chocolates. Sex and the City. Det høres mer riktig ut med sex i byen enn sex og byen. Dette får meg til å tenke på det norske eksempelet med Henning Olsenis kontra Henning Olsenis. Den følger oppskriften med å endre bare ett ord. Det høres mer riktig ut med Henning. Og man har en drøss med mennesker som fortsatt går rundt og tror at det heter Henning Olsen. Mandela-effekten handler også om folk som man husker har dødd, men som blir meldt død senere. Det er derfor det heter Mandela-effekten, for flere mener å huske at Nelson Mandela døde i fengselet i 1991. Andre personer man kan huske å ha dødd tidligere er Fidel Castro.
To that end, I found some residual information that kind of goes to prove that many of us remember that fact not because of bad memory, but because perhaps it was published and we read it, or perhaps it was even on television, we remember it, something like that. But to that end, there was a book written back in 1991, I believe, and the book is called English Alive. And that book specifically states that Nelson Mandela did die in 1991. The book was published on October 1st of 1991, and the title is English Alive. It was written in 1990, was published in 91, and you can clearly see in this book that it says, and this is a non-fiction book, a book on English. It is an educational book for South Africans, so I can't help but wonder why someone who took the time to write a book and who would reference the fact that, you know, the chaos that erupted in the ranks of the political community in South Africa when Nelson Mandela died on the 23rd of July, 1991. How could someone miss that? Why would someone write that in an English book if it was not true? You know, you have to do your research on things when you're a writer. If you're writing something that's going to be published, whether it's internally for your own company or whether it's externally, if it's going to be a public piece of information, a book or something like that, you generally do research on the topic before you write things. And I would think that any writer worth their salt, especially someone who gets published, would do that as well. So this person wrote this in this book, and I don't think that they wrote this haphazardly, just off the top of their head. I don't think that that date just stuck in there somewhere and they just happened to write it down. I'm sure that that person, when they were writing this book, did some research, got the date of his death before they wrote this into that book.
Hva din Mandela-effekt? Jeg skal vise noen klipp som forsterker eksistensen av Mandela-effekten. Hvorfor sier skuespilleren av Darth Vader, Luke, I am your father, hvis det aldri var I manuset?
Mind recording my answering machine message for me? It'll be an extra $500. That's okay. I'm rich now.
Hey, what do you want? This is CNN or Luke, I'm your father? When I first saw the dialogue that said, Luke, I am your father, I said to myself, he's lying. I wonder how they're going to play that lie out.
Should we do it?
Oh, yeah, go for it. Why not?
Okay. What does the redneck Jedi say?
No, you asked that because I'm a redneck or because I'm Jedi?
No, because we're both rednecks.
Okay.
But
the redneck Jedi says, Luke, I am your father and your uncle.
Og hvorfor bruker andre TV-serier kjente sitater fra filmer, slik vi husker de?
Life is like a box of chocolates.
You know, Mother, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Your life, however, is more like a box of active grenades. Now, I offer you one last chance for deliverance. Return my mind control device, or be destroyed.
Oh, you just want your toy back. Okay, here you go, honey.
Yes, well, victory is mine!
David Letterman!
You know, someone once said that acting is the enchanted wand that turns words into magic. Thankfully, we've had that person dragged out to the parking lot and beaten. I'm talking about words like, I could have been a contender. Here's looking at you, kid. Life is like a box of chocolates. All shining...
Her flere eksempler.
Mom always said life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Mom always said life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
Would you like a chocolate?
Oh, thank you.
I found the book Forrest Gump in 1985, and I fell in love with it. I read the first line, and the first line of the book is, "Being an idiot ain't no box of chocolates."
My mom always said that life is like a box of chocolates, is like a box of chocolates, is like a box of chocolates.
Here's an original copy of Forrest Gump. As you can see on the back, it says life is like a box of chocolates. If I can focus this in here, it's a 94-95 copy. All right, so here it is. Let's put it in and see what it says.
I could eat about 1.5 million of these. My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
For everyone. Magic voice.
Interview with the Vampire.
It's another blockbuster year for Hollywood. The motion picture Interview with the Vampire did over $100 million business.
And the nominees are Elliot Goldenthal for Interview with the Vampire.
Hi, I'm Neil Jordan, and I'm here to introduce Interview with the Vampire, a movie about the saddest vampires you'll ever see.
I wanted Interview with the Vampire to be a departure. I wanted to, first of all, I always thought the vampire was the interesting one, and I wanted to know what went on behind the scenes. So I wanted it to be a departure. I wanted you to fall in love with the vampire and see things through his eyes.
Interview with the Vampire, as every good story probably had.
I just decided it would be fun to do it, so I wrote a short story called Interview with the Vampire, and I kept it for about 2 years. And then I pulled it out while I was working on a collection of short stories, and I started to work on it. And it just took off. I really wanted to make it. That was the main thing. And David Geffen, as far as I know, became the real hero of Interview with the Vampire. He decided that he was going to get this thing made, and he was going to draw all the elements together.
You know, I use the books as a reference for me, and you know, you have to read them, especially Interview with the Vampire, because it's from Louis' point of view. You have to read it very carefully to find the clues to who Lestat is.
Nominees for Best Achievement. In art direction are
Interview with the Vampire. Art direction by Dante Ferretti, set decoration by Francesca Lo Schiavo.
And I like the book Interview with the Vampire. And,
Tom Cruise plays the immortal vampire Lestat in Interview with the Vampire, one of the new movies we're going to be reviewing this week.
First film is the eagerly awaited Interview with the Vampire, and now it's finally time to put aside the controversy. And now, I haven't really shown you the best part of Interview with the Vampire, and that's the production design of the French location.
All right, everyone, let's give it up for Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. Interview with the Vampire, the world premiere.
Here are the nominees.
Breakthrough performance.
I lost my heart.
Kirsten Dunst, Interview with the Vampire.
Oh, they show Interview with the Vampire during Halloween.
Kirsten, I loved you in Interview with the Vampire.
Thank you.
Brilliant. I've never seen a vision nor heard a secret.
Of course, that gave us one movie that I liked very much, Interview with the Vampire, but I think we were very... She says, "Dear Anne, I love both the book and the movie of Interview with the Vampire very much, and even though I loved Interview with the Vampire, that certainly wasn't my version of Interview, that was theirs." Vampire book, Interview with a Vampire, which was written near 20 years ago. At the end of that book, the vampires believe there is no God. That's right. There is no ultimate meaning to life's anguish. That's right. And, but at the time I wrote Interview with the Vampire, certainly I was in a deep despair.
We're back. Tonight, Anne Rice's first novel, Interview with the Vampire, comes to the big screen. And if audiences like it as much as the author and the critics do, it should be a major hit. Joining us...
Also, I was invited over and over again to get involved again with Interview with the Vampire. David Geffen, who's really the man responsible. I mean, you could walk in, off the street, and you would know this was Interview with the Vampire. If you'd read it 15 years ago and barely remembered it, you'd recognize it.
Our guest is Anne Rice, and opening tonight is Interview with the Vampire. We're back with Anne Rice. The film Interview with the Vampire opens today, and the book...
Interview with the Vampire, for me, was a door to reality. So I'm a great respecter of the vampire in popular art. Now Interview with the Vampire is going to change everything this weekend one way or another. It's either going to be a big hit or it's not. And this is a very rare thing to happen. This is a very rare thing to happen.
So, I found 3 different newspaper articles that call it what I think it should be called now as Looney Tunes, Toons. So the first one is here, the Freelance Star, February the 25th, 2005. So the Looney Tunes Gone Loco, that's the main headline. Right, having started off back in 1948 with the black and white adventures of Bugs Bunny, the road was paved for the Looney Tunes, the most influential cartoon characters ever. Right, you'll have to forgive me because I've had to go over these quite a few times. So then they've got a new series such as Tiny Toons, which I believe is now called Tiny Tunes, Adventures and even Baby Looney Tunes. Okay. Well, Warner Bros. Has decided to kill all the characters. Looney Tunes isn't going anywhere, but the characters are getting an upgrade in a new series titled Lunatics. So now we've got the Toledo Blade, November the 10th, 1994. There we go. Men wearing an earring in one ear, expensive or designer sneakers, Looney Tune gear. Right, he said, adding that one style has noticed he is the Looney Tune characters. Looney Tune and Disney creations are all over the hallway of local high schools. There they are. Looney Tunes Bugs Bunny turned 50 in 1989. So lunchboxes with Barney and Looney Tunes characters aren't limited to elementary schools anymore. Another one here. So this is the Ocular Star Banner, April the 28th, 2005. So the main heading is That's Not All, Folks. 11-year-old Thomas Adams thought Warner Brothers had gone daffy when he saw the company's plans for a new cartoon called Lunatics, based on Bugs Bunny and his Looney Tunes pals. Thomas couldn't figure out what was up with the plans to turn the old Looney Tunes gang into their Japanese anime-style descendants.
Denne observasjonen stiller kritiske spørsmål til konseptet med tid, eksistens og virkelighet. Ta godt vare på hverandre, på gjenhør. Of the world sang de før, men ikke mer.